What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. Here's a book, Ancient Mystic Oriental Masonry by R. Swinburne Clymer. Now, I want to turn the page. I want to say to 26, 25. I believe it's 25. All right. Focus here. The ancient and mystic Oriental rite is universal. Right. Let me get a good angle of it. And is open to every master mason who believes in the fatherhood of God and the universal brotherhood of all men. The other qualifications necessary for the neophyte is that he shall be honorable and upright in his dealings. The cradle of symbolism used in all masonry is placed by many of the best authorities in that country which they believe was first inhabited, the plateau of Tartary, and from there transmitted to this generation by the sages of India, Persia, Ethiopia, and Egypt. We are not indebted to either ancient Egypt for either religion or masonry, but to America. It is a fact that Memphis, Egypt, in the pyramids, under the guidance of the kings, the mystic rites of masonry were worked many thousands of years ago. But at that time, Egypt and the continent of America were one and the same. In America, rediscovered in the 15th century and repopulated in the 17th, was recovered Egypt and the Promised Land, or the land of the constellation of the Eagle. Our ancient ancestors were very noticeable of what was in the sky. I think one of my videos I was trying to show you the stars and how they align in the sky. At different periods, at different times, there's certain different images of how stars will align in the sky. They'll look at that and they try to place that where they were at on Earth at that time. All right. No matter how numerous or complicated the works of a lock may be, if but the right key be applied, the Great Pyramid proves to be the long-sought key to the mysteries at once of mythology and of the great world religions. Especially interesting is it to Americas in this year of the Columbian celebration of the 400th anniversary of the rediscovery of America, to see it demonstrated that the cosmic terrors interwoven with the very warp and woof of all sacred literature, Christian and pagan, refer to occurrences as literally true as the earthquake of Lisbon. Their stupendous events being connected primarily with a great destruction and recovery of equilibrium in the solar system, and secondly with the consequence wrecking of the continent of America when the globe became involved in the consequences of the disorder of the skies. America, known to the mystics as Atlantis, I repeat, America, known to the mystic as Atlantis, when this ruin befell, was the seat of the greatest empire that has ever existed, and its irresistible armies were terrorizing all Europe and Asia. Study of the American constellations Scorpius, Sagittarius, and Capricornus reveals the immemorable antiquity of the name America and the significance of the arms of the United States. The fact once recognized that it is impossible to separate the eagle from Americas, the land shadow with wings of Isaiah, over which accordingly appeared two grand eagles, the red swan flying down the Milky Way, and the winged steeds Yegas and Equilus, all the wings known to astronomy, without taking the bear from Russia, Perseus from Persia, and the flood of light is poured upon the history and mythology. And where heretofore, much has been vague and inscrutable, now we are able at least to see men as trees walking. When following the course of the constellations, those immovably and perpetually fastened upon America are reached, it will appear that, while that all is sublime in the historic past centers upon Egypt, all that is sublime in the prehistoric past centers upon America, Atlantis. And as the curtain which has hitherto concealed the prehistoric connections between the peoples of ancient Egypt and of America is lifted, it will be seen that the people of the eagle on the Nile being descended from the original people of the eagle on this continent. The twain are one, and that the prehistoric America was the original Egypt or Eagle Land, prior to the mighty dispensation in the days of the plague, when the earth was divided, and the great globe itself was nearly rent asunder. Says Agassiz, he was a geologist, a racist bastard actually too, but he was a geologist. Louis Agassiz, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but yeah, he was a geologist. First born amongst continents, America has been falsely denominated the New World. Hers was the first dry land lifted out of the waters. Hers was the first shore washed by the ocean that enveloped all the earth besides. And while Europe was represented only by inlands rising here and there above the sea, America, Atlantis, already stretched in an unbroken line of land from Nova Scotia to the far west. America was evidently peopled from the old continent, because there were only 8 persons saved at the deluge. Okay, I'm going to go on, I'm going to skip on. I'm going to go to page 30, and I'm going to read you this. I will continue reading. Of this, there can be no doubt. The pyramids were built by Atlanteans, Americas, long centuries before Egypt was a civilized country. Why then were they built in Egypt instead of on some part of what is now America? Because Egypt was then the center of the earth, and the Atlanteans, with their vast knowledge, sought the center, for that will stand as long as time. The pyramids will stand, will be locked down as long as time. Now, this book talks about that all that knowledge originated from the West, and it came to the East, that America was Atlantis. I have numerous of books that talks about America was Atlantis. And then you get them symbols with the eagle on your dollar bill, your $5 bill, and then the eagle, they have the 2 symbols at his feet, represent war and peace. One on the left One side has war with the arrows, the other has peace. I'm gonna say with the leaves on there. All that, all those imageries are basically stolen from my ancient ancestors of the past. See, what they did in the ancient world was they didn't have factories that fogged up the sky, cars driving around with all the smog coming out of cars and polluting the sky. They were able to see the skies real clear. So they were able to travel and basically created different images by looking at the sky, looking at how the stars were aligned. So I think I mentioned before, a lot of the deities started as it was solar, lunar, stellar, and then they were formalized and placed on the earth in a human form. But the stories were from old stellar, lunar, and solar stories. So that's where the stories come from. But then over time, they put those in the image of a human, those mythical stories that they had that were when they was looking at the sky, like I said, solar, lunar, and stellar. All right. But they traveled the earth using the stars, like I said, as well as looking at the rays of the sun. Right? America was Atlantis, and America was much older, especially South America. The civilization is much older, and I've said this over and over. They took that great knowledge that they had in the Americas and traveled around the world, but they took the knowledge that was here and it went over to Africa, and they built over to Africa. Now, if you look at the pyramids in America, they're more complex. They're better built, personally, to me. And, well, not personally, that's what they are. They have the stairs on there, the structures, they look like the design looks more visually, is a better aesthetic view of looking at the design when you look at the pyramids in America compared to ones in Africa. The ones in Africa, even though they're solidly built, the look seems more basic compared to the ones in America, which are more extravagant looking. So I just wanted to give you that, and I have plenty of sources. I had the book America Was Atlantis by Ivor Zapp and George Eckerson. That also talks about that. You know, so it wasn't them coming from Africa and bringing that knowledge. No, they came from the Americas and brought that knowledge over to Africa. And the continents were closer together much later than what you hear a lot of these scientists have been saying. They have done their damn best to suppress this history, man. The Americas are very old, particularly South America. But I remember I also said before that you had that Minoan snake goddess, an image of her in Alberta, Canada, as well as large heads of Olmec heads that was carved into the rock. And I mentioned before how people are great with carving the rock. We did that over the planet. We did that all through Asia, where you have the three-door walkway from Asia, Africa, and here in Americas. We traveled the damn world. We did this, man. This information has been seriously buried, and it's sick how we've been totally lied to about our true history. And like I said before, there are people trying to talk about our history and trying to articulate it in a form where people can understand and comprehend it. But then you got these Negro coons who want to attack people, attack their credibility, and continue to say we come from African slaves. Like I said before, I don't care if these Sambos had a master's degree, their bachelor's, their master's, or their PhD. Any idiot who's still telling you today that majority of so-called black people here in America came from the slave trade, they're a damn fool. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they represent the constant brainwashing and the indoctrination by outsiders and others teaching our history, and they have been totally whitewashed of their true history. These are some ignorant fools who continue to tell you that. All right? There's too much information, like I constantly tell you, that black people were already here. Melanated people were already here. And that'll just not apply to people here. Even the brothers and sisters in Brazil. Yes, there were more, quote, African slaves brought there, but the population in Brazil, most of those Negroes are already there. It's just that you have more Africans going there, mixing in with the Aboriginal blacks. Some of the blacks were able to escape out of there when the downfall of civilization was happening. But the blacks in Brazil are a mixture of those two black groups. African blacks who were brought over there and the Aboriginal blacks. Because the number there and the number of slaves brought there and the number of black people there, they don't add up, even Brazil. They don't add up. So you have to expand your knowledge and you have to open your mind more to your true history. You cannot sit there and go by standard traditional history or teachings because we have been totally miseducated. We have been totally lied to. You cannot believe what is taught in these damn classrooms because you're being taught to constantly think of yourself as less than and always being, quote, inferior and always being descendant of a damn slave. And that's a damn lie. Because the original slaves of this world were white folks and their masters were black. I want our people to wake the hell up, man. You're going to have to wake the hell up to know your true history. You have to wake your head up, man. We can't continue to be in this condition where we at the age of information now. The internet could be a viable tool, but you can't just go Google research. And like some of these Negroes online, all they do is do a Google search. Well, we came from Africa. Really? Really? Well, I took a DNA test, and my people came from Nigeria. Oh, my goodness, man. Man. Whatever, dude. Whatever, man. I don't know. We are going to have to really study our history and get really in depth. We're really going to have to study our history. Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue to be basically walking around like zombies and just thinking of ourselves as being descendants of slaves. And when I constantly hear that, I hear people say we're descendants of slaves. No. We're descendants of the Aboriginal, original black people that were here. The true Indian. We're descendants of some of my ancestors were enslaved. Some of them were not enslaved. Some of them were free people. Labor as free people of color. But to just sit to say our people we're descendants of African slaves, that is misinformation. And only idiots are saying this, man. And I'm calling you now an idiot. Because that's what you are. Because there's just too much information out there if you continue to say that. It's just too much information out there. It's no excuse not even doing a little research. You had all those serpent mounds here in America. All right? And then you see serpent images in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Then you see, obviously, the freaking eagle, like I mentioned. You have the eagle here in America. And then you have, see the eagle or the bird on the Egyptian pharaohs on their head, crown on their head. Let me also tell you this. I remember as a kid, man, I watched this rerun because I wasn't around in the 60s. There was this cartoon called Birdman. You know, Birdman. Man, this fool got his powers from the sun. You know, I can remember, I think I might have mentioned one of my old videos where this fool, one episode, got locked in a block of ice. And then all of a sudden the sun shined on the ice and it melted. And this fool said, thank you, Ra, oh great spiritual one. You know, Birdman's sidekick was Avenger. All right, his sidekick was Avenger, a damn hawk, a damn bird. And he answered to number 7, who had a patch over his eye, as in the case of Horus fighting Set, and he lost his eye, one of his eyes, in the battle fighting Osiris's brother, and number 7 was a person that Birdman answered to. Man, they had our history all in the freaking cartoon back in the 60s. All right, it was all in the damn cartoon. So, and we keep tiling this Africa stuff when the oldest black civilizations are in Americas, particularly in South America. I know your Negro scholars said, oh, no, South America not as old. That's a goddamn lie. The black civilizations in South America are older. And like I mentioned before, some of them so damn old, they're buried in the forest, man, because they haven't been kept up. The gardens and the paved streets have not been kept up, and they're buried under trees and different forests. It's like a forest covenant. You think it's a jungle. It's not a jungle. It's just the garden has been kept up in years. This stuff is right in front of your face, man. This stuff is right in front of your face. This history is right in front of your face, man. It's right in front of your face. It's right there in front of your face. There's too much information out there. There's too much information out there. And when you hear idiots, well, the Americas were totally isolated from Asia and Africa. There's no connection. Y'all shut up. There's too much similarities all over the damn planet. Things are so like aligned with each other like a damn grid. These people chart out the damn skies, the stars. And you still have idiot anthropologists and archaeologists telling you that goddamn lie. And idiot Negro historians who continue to go with that lie. I keep saying it before, Negro came on my page, want to tell me that these black Europeans are nothing but Africans. Because if you're black, you have to be African. And that's not true. You have black people globally. See, when you, like I said before in numerous videos, when you do that, you allow other people to steal not only your history, but your damn identity. And that has been done to black people globally. So basically that's all my video for today. This is a good book. Ancient Mystic Oriental Masonry by Swine Bernie Clymer. I have the Kissinger reprint of it. Alright? But this is a good book. I believe it was written back in 1907 or 09. So it's a good book to get. You know, it has some good information. And like I said, you have to do your research and your study. Right? Don't listen to these YouTube hustling pimps who are not giving you real history, they're not giving you facts. They just rambling on and going doing the Google research and saying that, hey, that's our history. That's insulting. I say this again. The masses of our people did not come over in no slave ship. The masses of our people were already here. And they were selling out, and then some people selling in, and it was constantly selling the seas. With their wooden ships with sails. I repeat, with their wooden ships with sails. And some of them in their ships had like a, I guess you say, what was the terminology can be used? Not only it's not a tent, but a place they can a covering that will cover them. It's sort of like a room that they had built on the ship where they can sleep in their quarters. They can go sleep and be covered out of the air. They be inside, but they won't be sleeping outside. They be sleeping inside their quarters. So they have a little room on the ship where they could be sleeping on the ship. That's how bad our ancestors were. But you allow foreigners to educate you. That is sick. And they're still doing that today. And then you have foreigners telling us about our history. Lying to us. And some of us don't want to hear the true history. We want to be slaves from Africa. That sounds good. But that information is wrong. We were already here. And I'm going to continue to bang on that issue. Because I'm tired of these damn lies. I've been knowing this stuff, man, for a long time. This pissed me off. Even some of my family members still kicking that slave nonsense. I'm telling you now, majority of our people, we are the true Indians, and our identity was stolen from us. And we have been reclassified as something else. And yet some of us mix with the black Moors, as well as some black Asiatics. So when you hear the Nation of Islam talking about there was an Asiatic black man, you had some of them Asian black people coming over here. It was a constant movement, constant a fluctuation of brothers and sisters going back and forth to different areas. We didn't stay stagnant. I keep saying this. We traveled the damn planet. Our people were explorers, pushing for that quest of knowledge or spreading that knowledge globally. But our major downfall is that we warred amongst each other on every damn continent. Peace.